Hello, everyone, and welcome to Poking Around Phoenixville. I'm Lou Beccaria, your host, and thanks for taking the time to be with us. We have a very, very interesting topic for you today, and a very interesting man to discuss this topic. And the topic is wood carving, and our guest is Thomas Patrick Greer, who prefers to be called Pat. So, Pat, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here. First of all, I'd like to ask you, before we get into all this wonderful topic about the wood carving, tell us a little bit about your background. Are you a native Phoenixvillian?
Yes, on the other side of town, Tunnel Hill.
Okay. And you go to school here and work here?
Yes, I went to parochial school, St. Mary's, and I went to Phoenixville Junior High and high school.
Mm-hmm. And how about your work life?
I was a dropout. I went to work at the hosiery mill in Spring City.
Mm-hmm.
What was it called? Schuylkill Valley Hosiery Mill.
Okay.
75 cents an hour.
Holy smoke.
So I worked there. I worked there about a year, and the guys were saying, go down to the Phoenix Iron Company and make them big money, $1.25 an hour.
Boy, you were in big.
So I went down there and I got a job. Yeah, I got a job there.
And how long did you work at the steel mill?
Well, I was there maybe another year, and I went into the Navy.
Oh, okay.
I joined the Navy, and when
Saw
I got
the
out, I came back to the iron company.
Uh-huh.
But
And you worked there for the rest of your working career?
no, I started going with my wife, Christine, and after a while, she says, "Do you want to do that the rest of your life?" No. She said, "What would you like to do?" "Well, I like woodwork." She said, "Why don't you get into woodworking?"
No.
So under the GI Bill, I started looking around. I liked cabinet making.
Mm-hmm.
And there wasn't much in Phoenixville, so I went down to Philadelphia. I got a job with an old German cabinet maker down there, put in my 4 years, and became a cabinet maker.
Okay. Your 4 years was like an apprenticeship type thing?
Yes.
Okay.
And I had to go to school
Uh-huh.
2 nights a week.
Okay.
And
So you come by your wood carvings naturally because you're a officially trained cabinet maker and woodworker.
I worked at a furniture factory in Norristown, and we had an Italian wood carver there.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched him all the time. And then I went to work back down in Philadelphia again, church furniture, and he was a sculptor, this guy, but he was the best carver I ever saw. He did full figure church figures.
Wow.
You know, and he was Spanish, that guy.
Now, what was it about wood carving that kind of turned you on, so to speak, for a major hobby in your life? And we have some beautiful pieces here, which in a minute we'll talk about. But what is it that turned you on to wood carving? That seems to be somewhat different than making cabinets.
Yeah. Well, see, I had planned on making furniture when I retired. You know,
Okay.
making furniture. I did for my family. I made pieces of furniture. But then I come home one day and my wife said, "I signed you up for a carving class."
Uh-huh. And was this
And
your
this
first?
is what I made. That's the first one.
This is the first one, and this is Santa Claus, right?
Yep. It's
And
an old
it's dated
Santa Claus.
1992. So you actually got started in this
Yes.
relatively late. That was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful piece. Now, when you carved this piece, did you have anybody particularly in mind that you wanted this to look like?
No, well, there was an old wood carver gave the class. It was at over in Lansdale, where I live now. It was at the high school, and it was an evening class. And my wife signed me and my son up for it without even telling us. She said, I want a Santa.
Now, 1992 was relatively later in life. What did you do before this for a hobby?
I had 7 kids. And I had 2 jobs most of the time. That's what I did.
Say no more. Okay. So you graduated kind of from this first piece, and then what did you do next, Pat?
Well,
in terms of your carving?
yeah, the guy that I did this with, he said, well, me and my son, he said, "You're pretty good at it. He said, why don't you join the club?" I didn't know anything about wood carving or anything. And there was a club in Quakertown, Wilhelm Schimmel Club. And we got into that club, and the first show they did, they said they were going to have a show at the mall up there. And I said, yeah, I don't have a piece to put in the show, so we just watched at the first show. But then afterwards, I got into the
You said,
the
I can do
shows.
this.
Yeah.
You have some utensils here with you. Could you explain for the benefit of our viewers what these tools are, how you use them, and why you use them for different aspects of your carving?
Well, this one here,
What is that called? Does it have a name?
this is a veining tool.
Veining tool.
Now
okay.
this is what you put the grooves in the
Okay.
hair. See, it has it. You see the way it's like a V tool they call
Okay.
it.
So you have certain tools that you use for certain, say,
Yes,
parts of the body.
yes.
Okay.
And this is a flat gouge that you get your concave cuts with
Okay.
that. And this would be for heavier pieces, you know. And I have bigger chisels, you know. And you this
So
would
it acts as a kind of a
Yeah.
mallet or a hammer.
yes,
Okay.
yes, that's the mallet.
And this piece here?
That's a knife, which I made. That's a homemader. Yeah, you get. I think I made this one out of a straight razor.
Have
And,
you always had an artistic bent to your personality? Or were you involved in art in other ways? Because this is very artistic, obviously.
I don't.
Did you draw? Did you?
I used to like to draw, and my brother and I, when we were just kids, we had a wood lathe, and we played around with that, you know. And
Was your father, into wood making too? Did you kind of inherit this in your genes, so to speak, or did you just come upon this yourself?
my dad, he worked at the boiler works in Phoenixville.
Okay.
He was a boiler maker.
When you do the wood carvings, Pat, do you use only a certain kind of a wood, or do you use different woods for different types of pieces? Like, is this wood different from the wood that you used in these figures?
No, all the figures you see are all basswood
Basswood.
from the
okay.
linden tree.
Okay.
The linden trees used to line the streets, you know.
Now, why do you use that particular kind
It's
of
a-
wood? Is it?
It's a soft wood and straight grained. You
Okay.
won't run into
Knots?
rough wood.
Okay.
But then you could use other woods. I know guys that use pine, and one of the better ones, and they don't paint it, is chestnut. Chestnut is and butternut.
Yeah.
They're very good woods, and you use it, and you don't. Most of them you don't put paint on them, you know, because the grain is so nice.
Now, you started in 1992, a little later in your life. When did you realize that you were really, really talented in this area, enough that you could enter into national competitions? And tell us a little bit about the national competitions that you entered, what it's like to be in that realm.
Well, I think when I started doing shows, I saw, competing against other carvers. And I started winning with my Santas. And
That's your specialty, Santas?
yes, I
Okay.
specialize in Santas. And Woodcraft store used to be down in Bensalem. And the first year that they had the contest, I was a little late in getting in on that one. And a friend and I went up to East Petersburg, up near Lancaster. They had an open house up there. And they had the Santas up there that were in the contest. And they had the winner there. And I said, you know what, I think I could compete in this contest. And the following year, I put that one in. I put him in there and won.
Now, this is really, really very interesting. I see that you didn't paint this one red for some reason.
No,
Is that
no.
because of the type of wood that you used? But it's a very, very
No,
attractive
it's,
piece.
I go with different colors on my Santas.
So tell us a little about actually the entering of it. Are there certain rules about how high or the type of a
Yes.
piece that you're able to put into a contest?
Yeah.
Tell us about the rules.
It's supposed to be your own idea, because I took it from a picture, and it can't be over 12 inches high. And I don't know about any other rules.
Are there a lot of people that
Yes.
compete in the national? Where does
The
do the nationals take place? The national championships, or is it a different place every year?
They do the judging in West Virginia.
Okay.
That's where Woodcraft. Well, it's between Woodcraft and Wood Carving Illustrated magazine.
Mm-hmm.
They do the contest, and it's all over the country.
Okay, so each year it's a different place.
Yeah, and
Now,
there's more than one store in Pennsylvania. I think there might be about 4 of them.
So in terms of the number of people competing in it for the, say, a national carving contest, are there hundreds?
Couple hundred.
Couple hundred
I
people
forget
from across the
exactly,
country.
but I think it was over 200.
Yeah. Now, when we think of wood carving, we normally think of men doing this, but are there women who are also involved in this?
Very good. In the one club I belong to, in the Del Val Club, we have a woman in that club who's probably one of the best ones in the club.
During the contest, are there different categories or levels of competition, like for different size pieces, or
What, in the national contest?
in the national competition?
No, it's just a one level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And after the contest, well, let me just explain. You know, you're a national champion. When did you win the national championship? And what does it feel like to be a national champion in something? Because 99.5% of the people in the world never get a chance to be a national champion at anything. So what does it feel like to be a national champion?
Well, it doesn't hit you right away. They called me up. Well, first they called me and told me I won People's Choice. They have them displayed, and the people come in there, and they pick out what they like.
Okay.
So I got People's Choice, and then about a week later they called me and said that I won.
Wow.
So.
So you're the people's wood carver.
Yeah, it doesn't really hit you right away, until people start congratulating. And I did a TV show on that. They flew me out to Ohio.
Oh, really?
Yes, and what's it called? American Wood Shop. Scott Phillips, his name is. I did a segment of the show with him.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to need to take a commercial break right now, and we'll continue on with the second half of the show. Pat, this is really very, very interesting. Please stay with us. We're going to take a short break for a commercial. When we come back, we'll have more from Pat on his wonderful wood carvings, and we'll show you some more of his work. Stay with us. Hi, welcome back to Poking Around Phoenixville. For those of you who are just tuning in, my guest today is Pat Greer, and we're talking about his wonderful wood carving career, and actually he's a national champion, and right here in Phoenixville. So Pat, let's continue on. I think the next angle I'd like to talk to you about is the progression of your work from just a block of wood, and how it gets from stage 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to a beautiful piece.
Well, see, if the smaller pieces, I can shape them on a bandsaw. Like that. Yeah.
Okay. You start off initially with a bandsaw.
Right.
Okay.
You cut them down on a bandsaw, and the bigger ones you can't do that. So that's mostly with the mallet. And
okay. Now, for a piece the size of this Santa Claus, it turns out to be a Santa Claus, which is your favorite piece to do. How long would it generally take to do a piece like this?
That one there, I could, if I stuck with it all day long, I could almost do that in a day.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, as an artist, do you need to, like a lot of artists, whether they're writers or painters, will say, I got to have the creative moment. I just can't sit down and do it. I need to feel some creativity in my blood. Do you feel the same way with your wood carvings? Like some days may be good to carve, some days aren't good to carve?
Not really, unless I'm not feeling good, you know. But most times I'll just go and...
So you've got that creative spirit just about all the time. Yeah. Now, another piece that we have, the heads of Santa Clauses. How long did they take you to do?
Less than a day. I could do that in less than a day. Because you can see they're bandsawed out, roughed out, and there's not much to that. I did a couple classes in that, you know, and gave the people, like the top one would be what I would give them.
Right.
And go, you know, work along with them, and they would do it in one day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, what kind of wood do you use, and where do you get it?
Well, most of my wood I get, it's just outside of town. A guy has a sawmill, but he gets the wood up in northern Pennsylvania. He has a hunting camp up in Susquehanna County, and he gets his wood up there. He gets the logs up there and brings them down to Lansdale and mills them down there. But some of the better woods, like the further north you go, the better the basswood.
I see.
I guess because they grow slower, you know. Because I've already, my one boy used to do tree work, and he brought me over a couple basswood trees, and they weren't real. They were almost mushy, you know, almost like a piece of balsa. Where balsa's okay for certain things, but you have to have a really sharp tool to cut into those.
Now, right by your left arm there's a rather large piece of a Indian head. Yeah. And could you tell us the story behind that one? You might want to pick it up and...
Yeah, well, actually, this is, they call that a mask. Whoops. They call it a mask. Now, I did this out of a book.
Okay.
It was not my idea or anything. I did it step by step out of a book.
Beautiful lines on the face. I mean, it's so realistic.
Yeah. And you can see there's a lot of work to it. It's hollowed out in the back.
Now, the carvings that you do you give them away as presents? Do you sell them at stores? Or what happens to them after they become beautiful pieces of art?
Well, all my Santas are not mine. They're my wife's Santas.
Okay.
She gets one for Christmas, one for her birthday, and one for Mother's Day. I tried to give them to her, and I used to. There for a couple of years, I was making 8 Santas, one for each of my kids. They would all get one.
So it's really become a family affair, and they look forward to getting your work.
Yeah. I don't do as much anymore.
Do you sell them at all?
Yes, I've sold a lot of fish. You know, and
tell us about the fish there.
Matter of fact, I think that was my first fish. That's the first one I ever did, and I used to enter them in the World Championships.
Okay.
Now that's down in Ocean City, Maryland. They had the World Championships down there.
Now, how many people compete in that? That's amazing.
They come from all over. We had, from Japan and.
Are the rules the same as in the national carving championship?
It's a little different. Well, that show is mostly birds. They worked fish into it, and that's when I got into it. But I have done a couple birds, but I could never compete with some of them. And some of the best ones are from Canada. I guess they get snowed in, don't have anything else to do. But they're really good. And a lot of them, they'll start, like from when that show's over, they'll start the one for the next year. Might take them that long to do it.
Wow.
And the one that wins the best of show is called the best in the world.
Okay.
And that's a purchase award.
Now, who's the best in the world right now? From what country? And is it a male or female?
Well, I think the guy that's called the best is from England. Okay. I did a class with him named Ian Norbury. I did a a carving with him.
Now, do you have aspirations of competing yourself to be a world champion? You've already been a national champion.
No. I don't think so.
It's a little too much, huh?
As a matter of fact, when I was in the fish competition, they did away with the fish competition because there was not enough interest. They just have birds now.
Uh-huh.
But see, they have novice, intermediate, and open,
Yeah.
they call it.
Now, wood carving, have any of your children taken up this interest, this hobby? And the second part of my question is, in general, is wood carving an area where there is growing interest, or is it a kind of a dying art, so to speak?
It is a dying art.
Okay.
We're a lot of our members are getting, they get older. We lost a couple this year, and the younger kids they're not taking the interest.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. They got their mind on other things.
Do any of your children have artistic talents,
I
either
have
in this
one
area or
son.
another?
I have one son that's very good. He doesn't do too many figures. He does ornaments.
Okay.
Christmas ornaments. He turns them on the lathe, and he paints. He paints things on it you wouldn't believe. I wouldn't have the eyes to do it. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. What are the critical? You touched upon a good point there. What are the critical skills that someone needs to have if you were going to take up wood carving as a hobby? Do you need to be someone who's very focused and concentrated? Do you need to have really good eyes? Do you need to have
patience.
a lot of dexterity with your fingers?
You need patience.
And patience. Now, why is that? What is the patience? How's that weave into this?
To stick to it. I know my oldest boy would never make it.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's broken a lot of golf clubs, but he would make a mistake and throw it, but
Uh-huh. So patience is a big
yeah,
is a big deal.
patience is, because a lot of people say, I could never do that. Did you ever try?
Now, over the last 15 years that you've been involved, Pat, in wood carving, how has wood carving influenced your life, if at all? And if you ever think about it, has it added a dimension to your life? Has it made your life better
I
in
think
some way?
so. Well, for one thing, when you get up in age, you need something to keep you busy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's...
How long
that's
have you
it.
been retired?
How long have I been retired? I think
Since '92 when you started this?
right before
Before
that, I think.
Okay.
But another thing I do, my wife makes jams and pickles, and I'm the berry picker.
Oh, okay.
so the berry season's coming up.
So I can see your wife's an inspiration in all this. You're retired and she wanted to get you out from under her feet and go do something, right?
She has been a big influence in my carving.
Mm-hmm.
And she critiques them too.
So I know I asked you this before, but I'll kind of ask you again because we got cut off. But being a national champion, and you said it didn't hit you at first,
Right.
but now that you've had a lot of time, when did you win the national championship, by the way? What year?
02.
Okay, so
I think it was 02.
it's 5 years ago. The 5 years now, how has that influenced your life, and how has it made you feel? And, do you wake up in the morning and say, "Wow, feels pretty good to be a national champion"?
Not anymore, but it did. You meet a lot of people, and what you feel good. You go to shows, and people say that's the one that won. Mm-hmm. They've seen it in magazines.
So within the context of that subculture of wood carvers, you've kind of become a celebrity in a way.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah. And it feels good. It feels good to be that, huh?
Yeah, and it makes you feel good that your work is appreciated. Mm-hmm. People take interest in it.
Now, you've been in it 15 years, and you've obviously become an expert at it. Are there any other challenges that you have in wood carving that you would like to tackle, so to speak?
Boy, that's a tough question.
Or like you specialize in Santa Clauses. Would you like to try doing horse heads or something that's maybe a little bit more difficult or artistically different to do? I keep it challenging for you.
I thought about it because there's people who do the carousel horses.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about it at one time, but I don't know. Because another thing is, I only ever did one duck. And it took me so long, and it was so much work. And I wound up selling it. I don't know why I ever sold it.
Why was the duck so more difficult? Because intuitively you would think that it would be a little easier than doing Santa Clauses.
You got to put in the contest, in birds and everything, the judges know, what do you call them, ornithologists?
The ornithologists, right.
They know every feather. You got to be the right number of feathers and everything.
Oh, okay.
And you got to put in all the quills, and that's a lot of work.
Now, we only have about 2 minutes left or so, but I would like to, maybe you could leave our viewers with a little tip or so about if this strikes their fancy, if seeing this show they may generate an interest, how do they get into it, and what would you suggest they do first off?
Well, first off, go to one of our shows. I do a show down in Lima, down at the Penn State campus down there. We do a show down there. That's in the fall. And I do another show at the Ogons campus in Abington. And I do one up in Tylersport. You probably don't even know where it is. It's just outside of Lansdale.
Okay.
But if the people would go to these shows, especially the one in Tylersport, they have classes there.
Okay.
And you could meet people that give classes if they wanted to get started.
Yeah.
And then you join one of the clubs.
And like you, it's been a great way to spend your retirement.
Oh, yes.
In being productive and creative, artistic, and a great way to pass your time.
I'd probably be doing housework if I wasn't doing that.
So this is great, and obviously a good alternative to that, right?
I'd rather do wood carving.
Well, Pat, thanks very much for being on the show. It's been our pleasure to highlight you and your skill, and to show the people here in Phoenixville that we have a national champion in our midst. So congratulations, beautiful work that you've done, and thanks for taking the time to be on the show.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for tuning into our show. It's been a pleasure, as always, to bring you this Poking Around Phoenixville show. We enjoyed the opportunity of highlighting Pat Greer on his wonderful accomplishments in the world of wood carving. I'm Lou Beccaria. It's been my pleasure to be your host. And remember, play nice and be kind to each other. I look forward to seeing you around town. Take care.